Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. And also thank you for caring to stay after this very long, inspiring and rich session, which Mina and myself have the immense challenge to now summarize and also reflect on what should be the next step, especially from a policy perspective. I think if you are sitting here, I have no doubt that all of you have something to do with care, whether you have direct care responsibilities or should it be because you had to take care of yourself, whether you apply it as a decision maker dealing with care statistics, also applying it to the way that you actually do leadership in your own environment. So in all this context, I'm particularly delighted to be representing FEPS today, the Foundation for European Progressive Studies, which is the leading progressive think tank at European Union level. And as such, of course, gender equality, care and sustainability are at the core of our activities and we could not do otherwise than consider them as true priorities. My name is Laeticia Thissen and I work as FEPS as the policy analyst on gender equality. So I think from today's discussion, what is very clear is that a credible future beyond growth is a feminist future. And so that is certainly one of the main messages here. There's nothing revolutionary, there is nothing new, and there's nothing so original about it, because this is a concept and an idea that was already developed back in the 80s and that started emerging thanks to the contribution of feminist economists, such as Marlene Waring with the publication on If Women Counted. Nowadays, you might be more familiar with the work of Caroline Criado Perez, and Invisible Women, who are actually doing nothing more than simply showing that the economy is gendered. And there's nothing new about claiming the fact that there is a need to apply a gender perspective on climate, on care, and on the economy in order to make growth a sustainable growth, a solid context. And so here the reality of climate justice and discriminatory gender practices can no longer be ignored. This is something that has been very well underlined by Tim Jackson in his intervention when underlining the need to use care as a true blueprint. And as such, today's Beyond Growth conference should have a clear message, and that is the economy, society, and environmental sustainability and justice must be profoundly feminist. That has been at the heart of the claims of Mariana Mazzucati, who claimed that economic discourses doesn't accurately value care economies, and that traditional measures such as GDP do not adequately capture economic activities. And so as such, women produce value for society, but also beyond care, and they provide a wider creative workforce. In fact, economic statistics should capture these activities, and therefore women do make a real difference in decision-making, but also in organizational dynamics, and so therefore diversity should be encouraged so that issues are examined from a gender perspective. And so here, policymakers should go beyond just regulating, but also conveying a clear idea on what type of society that they want and what is the purple economy that they want to establish for themselves and for society. And so therefore, women should not just be seen as a token representatives, but also as a way to increase visibility, also of bringing them from the margin to the center of politics in order to collect those relevant data that are so problematic in also eliminating the persisting gender inequalities, and also living up to the statement that not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. And so we have seen, especially through the last crisis, a rise and an increase of social inequalities, which have been exacerbated. It started with the 2008 financial crisis, moving on with the pandemic, and now we are also in the midst of the energy and cost of living crisis. And the paradox in all this is that if we look at the Oxfam reports, is that on the opposite hand, we see that the top 10 richest men are concentrating the majority of the planet's wealth. And so here, again, also from an intersectional perspective, we see that women, but also ethnic minority and other underprivileged groups are facing the brunt of the crisis, and that they are the ones that are bearing the huge responsibilities in order to repair our broken worlds. And so now it is time to basically find new ways to address these inequalities. And so here I would like also to echo the words of Joanne Tronto, who not only provided a definition of care that is holistic and comprehensive, but also very well illustrated that we need caring democracies. Why do we need caring democracies? Because due to the rise of democratic deficits, people are more and more feeling disconnected from political concerns. And so by politicizing care, you actually touch right away and you put the finger on what is important to them. And so therefore the importance also to tackling not only the democratic deficit, but also the caring deficits, whereby we see that more and more people have their care needs that remain unmet. What policy answers? The most obvious one, and that has been repeatedly underlined by the panelists, is the need for public investments. And so here the purple economy is precisely calling for that. We need massive funding. We need a care deal, as Mary Colling from the European Women's Lobby has been so well illustrating. We need public expenditures that on the one hand can reduce and lessen the care burden on women, and at the same time also produce new labor market opportunities to those that had already, that always faced a disadvantage on the labor market. In all this, we need to be aware of the structural barriers and disadvantages, which tend to be forgotten. Yes, women are more and more qualified, but this doesn't mean that the gender pay gap is disappearing. Yes, it is true that we see more and more the increase of formalization of care work, but this is also being taken over by migrant labor workforce. And so that comes back also to some of the questions and reactions that were made from the audience, where we see that there is a shift and the development of an international distribution of reproductive labor that is shifting from from Western countries to also to being externalized to, again, the less privileged parts of society. And so that is why also I would encourage you to look at the FEPS primer on gender equality, because here the author Agnès Hubert is calling for a new model of growth. And here she's building on contemporary feminist economists who call for an economy that is focused on new mechanisms that not just build on traditional ways of accounting for the economy, but that focus on an economy of well-being. And so here the concepts should include indicators based on health, a recurring element that came back in the discussions, but also education, income, employment, and social situation. And so here the success should not only depend on growth, but also on people's state of well-being and happiness. The COVID-19 crisis should be a wake-up call. And so therefore the choice of data that we use in order to measure the state of well-being of a society truly matters. We need concrete and ambitious strategies in order to ensure socioeconomic well-being. And so here Agnès Hubert again is calling for the development of new models of growth based on alternative indicators. For instance, she's suggesting that the Commission could apply, instead of only GDP, gross social development indicators or gross environmental indicators for progress, in order to, for instance, guide the new EU initiatives, like, for instance, the Next Generation EU funds or the European semester. And here I would like to briefly show you a slide. I'm not going to delve longer into it, but this is just a very concrete illustration of work that we have been conducting at FEPS, and you can also look up the detail on the FEPS website. Here, concretely speaking, we were interested in how member states have used the opportunity of the Next Generation EU Fund to invest in the care sector and to apply the principles of a purple economy in their reconstruction. And what you can see here is illustrated in red and blue are those measures that are specifically considered either as care relevant or as care targeted. And so what jumps immediately to the eye is that within those measures that are foreseen in those 8 national recovery and resilience plans, is that regardless all the calls and regardless of all the discussions that we have had so far, that we need to prioritize digital economy and the care sector, it remains it is still lacking in terms of prioritization. So that was simply also to illustrate the point. And I'm going to close my points here with 5 key elements. And I think this is perhaps essential in order to better value the place of care in society, is to apply the 5R ILO framework, which consists of recognizing care, reducing care, because we should not be taking it for granted, redistributing care in order to also lessen the responsibility on women, but also eradicate stereotypes, better reward care, and also better represent care workers through collective bargaining. And so I'm going to close here with the definition of Toronto that was mentioned earlier, but I think is truly significant in the context of the Beyond Growth Conference, that defines care as an activity that includes everything that we do to maintain, continue, and repair our world so that we can live in it as well as possible. That world includes our bodies, ourselves, and our environment, all of which we seek to interweave in a complex, life-sustaining web. Thank you very much. Thank you.